After what we just saw, I'm trying to get a word with the
What
Dark
the
Order.
hell do you guys think you're doing? I knew you'd do something stupid like this.
If you thought we were gonna do something stupid, why didn't you try to stop us, huh? You still want that championship, man.
Oh, so you thought you'd make the challenge for me, huh? You guys think I'm scared of Kenny?
No, we don't think you're scared of Kenny, but we do think maybe you're scared of failure. And it's okay to fail, as long as you get back on the horse.
When I failed for my TNT championship opportunity, you hoisted me above your shoulders and you celebrated my efforts, Adam.
Remember what you told us? Win or lose, we always have your back and we're always here for you. And guess what? We're here for you, Adam. You got this. You got this.
Come on, Adam.
Believe in yourself.
You're going to be a champ, Adam. Come on.
We believe in you.
Got it, dude.
Adam, you've waited long enough. This is your time.
Welcome, everyone, to Talk AEW, the official fan podcast of AEW Wrestling, found over at goombastomp.com. I am one of your hosts. My name is Ricky D, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Mr. Aaron Santos.
Hello, WrestleManiacs.
No Mariko McDonald today. I'm really sorry, guys. Mariko cannot make the show. We've had to take some time off, Aaron, which is unfortunate, but it's all AEW to blame because they decided to change their schedule and it just did not work for us. This whole Friday night Dynamite, Saturday night Dynamite. Like, I don't have time to watch wrestling on Saturday night at 9 p.m. nor Friday night at 10 p.m.
And it doesn't help that the Canadians have made it to the Stanley Cup.
Yes. So
Like-
we did record two shows throughout the month of June.
Yeah, just like everything going on. Like it's hard. It's really hard. I gotta say.
I don't know. It just didn't work for us. So we're back. Dynamite is thankfully back on Wednesdays.
Yeah, thank God.
Tony Khan, please do not ever move Dynamite ever again from Wednesdays. Like it is, honest to God, the best night for wrestling.
It is. It really is because it's in the middle of the week. I mean, like there's nothing to really do on a Wednesday. You gotta sleep early. You gotta stay home anyway because you're working the next day. So
for real, like even back in the days when I was a younger Ricky D and I used to party a lot, I would always go out on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Monday. I mean, Monday's cool, but like you got Raw and you got NFL.
Yeah, that's true.
I think Wednesday is by far the best night for AEW Dynamite.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to Rampage. You know, it's going to be on a Friday, but like I said, we talked about this, I think, on the last episode. I can PVR the show. It's only going to be an hour. I can watch it the next morning.
That's true. I mean that's the good thing that I'm happy with Rampage, that it's only an hour. Because like Dynamite on a Friday is like you gotta dedicate like 2 hours, and then in our time, like from 10 to 12, like past 11, man, I'm already halfway out, you know. So
I don't know. I'm pretty excited about the show. We got 3 cool talk spots to talk about. Before we jump into the first talk spot, in which we're going to talk about, of course, the Sammy MJF match. Spoiler, it was pretty amazing, and yet I'm really mad. But anyways, before we get into that, if you do listen to the show, I know we have a few people who do listen to the show. We are always looking for help. Writers, graphic artists, anyone who just wants to be part of a little community, hit me up, shoot me an email over at goombastomp.com. My email is editor@goombastomp.com. If you want to be on the podcast, let us know. We're a friendly bunch, and we're always looking for contributors. So just wanted to throw it out there because you never know.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Aaron, let's get into the show here. Our very first talk spot here, we're going to talk about the match that I've been pretty much asking for about a year now. Every week on the podcast, I'm like, when are we going to get the Sammy versus MJF match? When are we going to get it? Did you know that neither one of these men have wrestled a singles match since December?
I could believe that. I mean, because they've been busy with their own storylines for so long that booking the match against each other during that time, it would have been because MJF was with the Inner Circle around that time. No,
Yeah, he was with the Inner Circle. And yeah, they just had way too many storylines revolving around the faction. And of
Yeah,
course,
exactly.
we all know what happened to MJF turning his back on Jericho and
Hmm.
forming the Pinnacle. But I don't know. That surprised me. Like I knew Sammy hadn't been in a singles match in forever.
Yeah,
He's been in
that.
tag team matches.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of tag team matches, a lot of everything except the singles match. We don't see that too often. Well, we actually no, you did. There was times that Sammy was in singles matches, but it wasn't on Dynamite though. I can remember him having
No,
doing
no, no, no,
singles.
no, no, no. Since
Really?
December, he hasn't wrestled a singles match, at least not for AEW. Like maybe he's done an independent show or been on like Impact.
Really? I could have sworn I saw him on like Dark or something.
No, Dark was like me too. I thought the exact same thing. I don't think he's had a match on Dark, a singles match, since December.
Holy crap! Okay.
Anyhow, let's talk about the match. So Rob Van Dam, I just got off the phone with him, and he's still having an orgasm.
Okay.
Because I mean, look, I'm gonna complain about something here today, but
Yeah, just let it out.
I gotta say, man, I was impressed, like super impressed with
Mhm.
Sammy Guevara. Like I knew Sammy would do great things, but when he climbed up to the top rope and pulled an RVD and flew off the top rope over
Into
the
the
barricade,
yeah,
over the crowd, on top of MJF, I was just like, damn.
dude. I mean, me and my wife were both watching that. She couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And then I asked myself this question right after Sammy did this: is Sammy a bigger risk taker than Darby Allin? Because like the stuff that Sammy does sometimes, I'm like, it scares the crap out of me, man.
I'm going to say yes, and I've actually said the exact same thing way back on the podcast. I can't remember which pay-per-view it was, but when Darby Allin had the match with Sammy, and
Mm.
I think Sammy did the 630 from the top rope on top of Darby on
Oh
top
yeah,
of the
on the table.
table.
Yeah, on top of the table. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've always said he's a bigger risk taker. I think the thing is Darby Allin gets more singles matches. He's wrestling more often than Sammy. So it
Yeah.
appears to be that he is the bigger risk taker, and also he's smaller.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I mean, it does look scary when he's smaller, but at the same time, man, like every time I see a match with Sammy, like I mean, kudos to him, but he always does that. He's always able to like just take your breath away, like in a when he's in a singles competition, because he's always taking these like huge risks. Like like it's it's awesome, but it's like terrifying at the same time.
Well, that was one of many great moves, maybe the
Hmm.
best, but the second best, some people would argue the best move was the reverse Canadian Destroyer, which I don't know about you. I know they overused the Canadian Destroyer, and I've complained about it. And I know Sammy's
Hmm.
actually complained about it on social media and on his vlog, how everybody uses the Canadian Destroyer.
That is true when you think about it. Yes.
Dude, it's such an amazing move. To me, it should be a
Mhm.
finisher.
Uh,
Like it can't be nowadays because everyone,
no.
including what's the rapper, Bugs Bunny, what's his name again? Bad Bunny.
Oh, Bad Bunny. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, yeah.
everyone pretty much could do a Canadian Destroyer these days. But that's my ongoing complaint on this podcast about every
Mhm.
wrestler doing every single great move that it's no longer special. Like how many people do the senton bomb? I mean,
Yeah.
Wardlow does a senton bomb, and he's like
Mhm.
6'6", 300 pounds type
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. Well, it's impressive to see a Santon bomb when you're 6'6" and 300 pounds. I'll give him
Look,
that.
I think it's okay if a big guy does a big move like that once in a blue moon on a big
Yeah.
stage like WrestleMania. Like I remember when Brock Lesnar,
Did the
mind
moonsault?
you, yeah, he almost killed himself.
Oh no, it was a shooting star press.
He did
It
a
was
shooting star press.
yeah,
It
yeah.
was against was it against Goldberg or The Rock? I think it was Goldberg.
It might have been Goldberg. I can't remember anymore. But I think I know I remember the match you're talking about because apparently he almost broke his neck.
Or maybe it was The Rock, because Goldberg like beat him in like 5 minutes. Anyhow, he did the shooting star press. He landed on his neck. I think he might have like seriously injured himself. He clearly finished the match. But the point is, on a big stage, once in a blue moon, it's shocking, right? Because it's not something you see every week.
Exactly.
But when you have the big dudes like Lance Archer, Wardlow, you name it, and they are doing like a senton bomb or a Canadian destroyer or something incredible each and every single week, it no longer makes that move special. And
true.
I mean, look, the problem is that you have all of these wrestlers. There's like more wrestlers than ever before. There's so many different wrestling promotions around the world. And so you're going to have more matches and more people attempting more of these moves on a regular basis, right? But like within the world of like I always say this, within the world of AEW, right? Like I look at it like I view it sort of like a comic book. There is a universe, a world that you create, or a TV show. I mean, it is a TV show, right? And in this TV show, be it AEW wrestling or Game of Thrones or Hannibal, you have rules. Like you set the rules. You have characters, and the audience expects people to do certain things, right? You don't watch Game of Thrones and expect someone to turn into like a superhero like Superman, right?
Yeah.
So I know that's a weird comparison, but the point is, like, within this universe of AEW, they can set rules. They can be like, hey, guys, no one is allowed to do so-and-so move. That is reserved for so-and-so wrestler. It is his finisher. It is his special move, But I feel like they don't really have those rules. I mean, you see...
No.
It's crazy.
Well, I'm not going to say, like, it... I don't think it's wrong for them to do what they're doing because like I feel like every wrestler's goal in AEW or any other promotion, I'm sure, but in AEW, like they're out there looking to like give 110%. So like, why not do like some big flashy moves? I mean, I could see the argument where you're saying like you're seeing the same move every week, and I can see your point, and to that point too, like it makes the move less impressive, which is kind of bad.
It's very bad. I get what you're saying, but I think at the end of the day, you have to factor in the success of the entire company. And I think as an individual, as a wrestler, what gets you over, which you have to clearly concentrate on having good matches, right? And showing your athletic your athletic skills, your talent in the ring, be it as a grappler, a high flyer, etc. But you got to really sell yourself as a character. At the end of the day, it's a TV show. You are playing a character in a TV show. That is what is going to get you over, especially with the crowd, right?
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
Stu Grayson is the most underrated wrestler in AEW. He is incredible. But Stu Grayson, as much as people love him because he's part of the Dark Order, he's not over like Darby Allin or Sammy or MJF or Britt Baker. And it's because, no offense to Stu Grayson, he just does not have the look or the personality, the character, and he won't ever get over like that unless they somehow revamp
really
him.
Push him. Like, I just think he needs a bit more of a push though, because like how often
he needs more of a push, but they're not going to push him because there's only so. Look, I think he's one of the most talented wrestlers. This is the point I'm trying to make. Like in the ring, that's the actual wrestling. He's so incredibly talented.
Yes.
So like, if he went out and he did like every single finishing move in one match, it wouldn't put him over more so than if he didn't. Like, you know what I mean? With the crowd, like everyone's going to walk away and are going to be impressed with that match. And it might be like a contender for match of the year, but it won't put him in like the superstar status level where now he can fight Kenny Omega for the championship belt. At the end of the day, you have to factor in the personality, the character, how good you're on the microphone, selling promos, etc., etc. The point is I get what you're saying, but I still think it hurts the company if you go out and you do a big move. And the reason why we're ranting about this, because we're supposed to be talking about the Sammy MJF match, it's because this is what pisses me off. Okay, first of all, Tony Khan, you should be ashamed of yourself because Sammy's your biggest star, I think. I've been saying this since the very first episode of Dynamite, and you almost kill your biggest star. Not only does he take a full-on head chair shot to the head. I thought they outlawed chair shot to the head. It was a straight up chair shot to the head.
Yeah.
He didn't even block it.
He did. His hands were up.
His hands were up. But
Yeah.
it still felt like they got the top of his head. Anyhow.
Mm.
So but this is all in one match. You got Sammy pretty much sacrificing his body, his mind, his soul, and then you still have to hit him with a chair shot, and
Yeah.
you have MJF doing a pile driver from the top rope,
Dude,
and that's not a finishing move.
it was a finishing move for his kneecap. I don't know. I don't know if you saw after. Like I can't. Here's one thing about these.
Wait. Are you telling me he's actually hurt?
But that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, I don't know if he's selling an injury, but if he was selling an injury, he did a hell of a freaking job, because I could not tell if he was really injured or not.
There is many reasons why this is a good match, and one of the reasons is because of the way MJF and even Sammy sold their injuries.
Yes,
specifically MJF.
Very, very convincing, especially MJF, because after that pile driver from like the top rope or second rope, I'm just like, his kneecap must have blown up, man, because like you have the weight of gravity and you have the weight of Sammy Guevara like coming down on your knees, like, I don't know.
So I think he sold it for 3 reasons. Number 1, he landed on his feet, did not land on his knees. He had to. If he landed on his knees, he would have like decapitated Sammy.
Yeah.
Number two, earlier in the night, we had an awful, like one of the worst matches ever. We had a match between Britt Baker, Nyla Rose, Vicky, and Reba Rebel.
Yeah.
And Rebel, her knee went out.
Yeah, she dislocated
and that
her
happened
knee.
for real.
Yeah.
So if you see the way they addressed her injury during the match,
they didn't sell it, or she didn't sell it.
She was actually injured.
Yeah, she was actually injured.
Yeah, look, I think there are certain injuries where you can continue a match, right? The problem with a knee injury, I think, I'm not an expert, but from like playing basketball and sports over the years and having multiple injuries, is you can't really walk properly. Like if your knee is jammed and it's like bent and you can't put your legs straight and walk properly and do a proper wrestling move and keep your balance, you can't continue a match. Like you can actually continue a match with a broken shoulder or even a broken neck. We've seen people wrestle with a broken neck, but your balance, it all relies on your legs and your knees. So I'm not like, and again, that's what made it so amazing watching MJF sell the injury, because he clearly could not balance himself.
No, I mean every time he tried to like at least lift Sammy or something, he sold the fact that he can't because his knee or leg was mangled. So,
but here's the thing, like I say that this is a great match, and I take it back. I think that the match had some incredible moments.
It had a lot of incredible moments, I found.
Many. And
yeah,
so maybe
many.
that would classify it as a great match. And it also
just the finish was crappy. I mean, I think that was the argument.
So there are 3 main reasons why I'm not sold on this being like the greatest match ever on Dynamite or it being a perfect match. Because first of all, okay, we've addressed the pile driver. And I don't know about you, and like I don't think you've answered my question, but do you think that it makes sense to have MJF do a pile driver from the top rope, or the second rope, I should say, and on Sammy, and then it's not even a finisher? Like I understand that he apparently quote unquote hurt his knee, or at least he tried to sell it, and that's why he didn't pin Sammy. But still, it's a pile driver from the second rope. Like that's a move you save for a finisher on a pay-per-view event. And if maybe it doesn't even have to be a pay-per-view event, just a main event, like even a main event Dynamite. But that should, I've never seen anyone do that move in North America. Not unless it's an independent like wrestling promotion.
Yeah.
But not on television.
That's true.
So okay, before I get to reason number 2, like, were you okay? And if you were, that's fine. A lot of people were. Were you okay with it because of the fact that MJF sold the fact that he couldn't make the pin because of his knee? Like, was that okay for you?
For me, that was okay because there was a lead up to it. I mean, if MJF was going to do like the like a, I'm just going to call it like a super pile driver on Sammy and be okay and not pin him after, I mean, I probably would have been less okay. I mean, either way, it was cool, but
I'm still like really upset over the pile driver because a few weeks ago, right before the pay-per-view event, FTR, yeah, it was FTR. FTR did the pile driver on Santana and Ortiz on tables, and I was like, holy shit, they're gonna kill them. And here we have MJF doing the pile driver from the second rope on Sammy, who I think is like the future of the company. And I'm like, are you not trying to protect your stars? And that's not to say that I don't want any of these stars to do amazing, incredible, like risky moves. But the problem is, I think, and I'm not a professional wrestler, when you look at a guy like The Undertaker and he does a pile driver to someone like Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Undertaker is at least, like, I don't know, 6'6".
Yeah, 6'6".
And Stone Cold's like maybe 6'1", 6'2". So he can hold Stone Cold, drop to his knees, and not worry about his head or neck hitting the mat. MJF and Sammy are like, I mean, they're pretty much, I guess they're both like, I should check how tall they are, but I guess they're pretty much the same height. And so if you look at the move, Sammy's neck does hit the mat, right? And so for me, it's really risky for him to do it from the top rope. So as a huge fan of Sammy, I was really worried about it. Now, the second reason why I was like iffy on the match was because of the ending. Because every week I complain about the interference. And once again, we have we have the Pinnacle show up and interfere, and you got Jericho that tries to help and he gets sabotaged by Wardlow, but then you still get Shawn Spears that hits Sammy over the head with a chair. Why can't we just have a great match between Sammy and MJF and one of them wins and one of them loses?
I guess you got to protect Sammy. That's the only reason why these interference happens, because you want to protect the wrestler's reputation, or like, protect the wrestler's power level or something. It's just a way of like, it took an interference to beat Sammy Guevara. So
you know how I would have ended the match? Okay, first of all, we've been waiting forever for an MJF Sammy match. Okay, I don't have a problem putting it on Dynamite because we know we're gonna have way more matches with these two dudes in the next 5-10 years. But what if Tony Khan actually hired me and listened to me? What if he does the pile driver, he blows his knee, Sammy's pretty much dead on the ground because, he just had a pile driver done on him from like the second rope, and they can't continue the match. And they stop the match. I mean, would people be really upset given the fact that it ended the way it ended and the fact that they did so many great things throughout the match that they just kind of like ended the match? Or at least if you're going to have interference, just end the match. The referee loses control to be continued.
Well, the referee didn't call for the interference because he didn't see it happen. He was busy.
I know, but I'm saying rewrite it. So look, I get what they're trying to do with MJF. I've said this before in the past. He's sort of like a mix of Ted DiBiase and Mr. Perfect. I always think of Kurt Hennig when I think of Mr. MJF, Mr. Perfect, Mr. MJF. You get what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
The guy who,
I can see it.
He's good at everything. He's good on the mic. He's a perfect wrestler. I mean, I think Bret the Hitman Hart always said that Kurt Hennig was the best wrestler he ever wrestled with. He never ever injured anyone. He was perfect to wrestle in the ring. So they're trying to do sort of like this. MJF has never ever lost a match. His record is like whatever it is, like 15-0 type thing. I think he's actually lost one match, but the way AEW does the ratings, for anyone that doesn't know, they restart at the beginning of every season,
Mhm.
every year. So, yes, he lost one match at a pay-per-view event against John Moxley way back in 2019, I think it was, or maybe 2020.
Mhm.
But they reset, and so as of this year, he hasn't lost a match, and so it's a great way to build. And like they still like they still of course keep track of. It's not like they erased and delete the previous records forever. Like, Jungle Boy clearly is the first guy to reach 50 wins. But I'm
Mhm.
just saying that for an audience at the time, like right now here in AEW Dynamite, JR can come on the mic and say MJF has won 16 matches and he's lost 0, because he's referring to this year, and it helps sell that character as
Yeah.
unbeatable. He's
Mhm.
undefeated. So I get that. I have no problem with that, but I'm just saying MJF doesn't have to lose the match, but at the same time Sammy doesn't have to lose the match, because I feel like now I guess it really bugs me, the pile driver. It really does.
Well, was that the only thing that bothered you with this match, or is it the interference too?
The
Because
pile driver, the interference wouldn't be bad if it didn't happen like 10 times every week on Dynamite. That's the issue.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I agree. In terms of the interference, like I agree with that problem. I feel like the interferences now in AEW are starting to become a little too rampant, because you have like so many storylines that involves like factions and everything now, and there's always interference happening. I mean, you got the thing with the Good Brothers, and you got the thing with the Inner Circle, and then the Pinnacle, and then sometimes you have interference with like Jungle Boy with Hardy Foundation. Like when we're talking about it now, like think about it, there is quite a bit of interference in AEW, considering that if I can remember a quote from like Tony Khan, he has mentioned that he never really liked interferences in WWE, yet we're starting to have quite a bit in AEW.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron, the very same episode early on in the night, in the first hour, we get the tag team champions lose a match.
Interference everywhere in this episode.
To be fair, first of all, the champions very rarely ever lose. So I thought that was actually cool that they added that twist, right?
Mhm.
And second of all, the interference actually came from the faction of the Elite. So it's their own fault that they lost the match. So again, a little bit of a twist. But
Mhm.
still, each and every single week, there is interference. And once again, we get it here with the Sammy match. And I don't know, maybe I'm like the biggest fan of Sammy, and I just wanted to see like a great straight up like one-on-one match with no interference.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why I'm disappointed, but it still doesn't change the fact that, like, look, like they just released a bunch of videos. I think 7 videos in total so far, and they're making more. It's like some wrestling fan. He's got a YouTube channel. He's been doing these compilations of all the AEW botches, and everyone's talking about it on Twitter. And it's really bad. It's really bad. Now here's the thing. To be fair, I don't think it's the end of the world if someone messes up in a match, because people mess up all the time in real life. It makes it more realistic.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone goes for a drop kick and they don't hit the mark, as long as the opponent sells it as like, hey, by the way, you missed, you didn't drop kick me. You know what I mean? If he falls backwards and he clearly didn't hit him, then that looks stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of botches where people have been injured or close to being injured, and it's not cool. And that's the thing about AEW. Like, you don't have to do a crazy high flying, high risk maneuver every 2 seconds. Have faith in your audience. Like, we like AEW not just because of the wrestling. We like it because of your roster, your personality, your characters, your storylines. You don't need Sammy flying up and down, left and right like a circus act. Like, I'm sorry if I sound like Jim Cornette, but he's kind of right a lot of times. Why, for example,
taking like a lot of.
Well, why does Sammy have to flip every 2 seconds in the ring? Like, you don't have to flip every 2 seconds, dude. You're not in Cirque du Soleil.
No, I agree, because they're clearly like MJF and Sammy were like really trying to put on a good show, so they're like throwing all kinds of flips and all kinds of like high risk maneuvers. Like it it made for an entertaining match. I see your point that yes, at the end of the day, we want the wrestlers to be as safe as possible, but we can't control what these wrestlers want to do in the ring.
Well,
So
it's not just about being safe. It's also about the fact that, again, if you do it every single second, if you're flipping,
yeah,
you're
it
flying,
doesn't it takes away the sort of like the magic of it, right?
well, imagine if you're playing Mortal Kombat and the finishers are no longer finishers. You can actually do a finisher at any point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it just wouldn't be as cool. It's like, okay, so now I could just do the finisher like a second into the round, into the match.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
So
it
then
takes.
what makes
takes-
the finisher special?
Mhm.
I hate slapping a rating on a movie or a TV show or a video game. Like, we don't do reviews over at Goomba Stomp, and I don't like slapping a rating on a wrestling match. But just for the sake of slapping a rating on the match, just to kind of get into your head. Like, if you had to give this a star rating, like how many stars would you give it? Like 1, 5, 4.5?
I would give it a 4.
Really?
It was an entertaining match. I mean, it was an entertaining match. The finish sucked, but it was still fun.
I do think that the start of the match was a little sloppy, and on the part of MJF, I think there was way too many times, actually throughout the entire match.
It looked too rehearsed to begin in that match.
Way too rehearsed.
Yeah.
It looked like MJF was just waiting for Sammy to land the big move on him, and you don't get, like, I'm sorry, this is why I'm saying, like, again, I know I'm the biggest Sammy Guevara fan, but look, when Sammy's in the ring, I've never ever seen him pause and wait for someone to land a move on him. I don't know, like, maybe it's because he's faster and he has faster reflexes than most of the wrestlers.
Yeah, I mean, he's very quick and snappy in these moves. That's for sure.
Look, if MJF wants to go on Twitter and he wants to talk shit about Sammy, go rewatch this match, MJF, and you're gonna realize that he out wrestles you, and you did not do a great job for a good portion of this match because.
Yeah,
I mean, dude, like, you can't just stand there and wait for a guy to land a move on you for like 5, like 30 seconds.
well, it's like what we were talking about through this whole segment is that the interference. I mean, it had to protect someone, so clearly it protected MJF because, like you just said, MJF was not winning this match at all.
Well, he did win it.
He did win it thanks to Mr. Chairman over there.
Okay, well, here's the thing. We're going to take a break because when we come back, we're going to get Mariko back on the podcast. And one of the segments we're going to talk about is the future of AEW. And how will the crowd change storylines and the fate of some of these wrestlers, the future of some of these wrestlers? Because, Aaron, they're setting up a Shawn Spears versus Sammy match again. And they're setting up a Chris Jericho versus MJF match again. And I'm sure we're going to get these matches because they've already set it up. But I think everything's going to quickly shift and change because they're going back on the road in front of a crowd. And I really do believe that the crowd is going to change everything. So we'll be back. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about the future of AEW.
I outsmarted you and I became the fox in the henhouse known as the Inner Circle, only to create a faction of my own. I out-wrestled you. Both at Full Gear and at Blood and Guts, I have outclassed you on the microphone week after week, and now I've dethroned you as the king of AEW, Christopher Jericho. You would think, as a 30-year veteran of this sport, you would know when to just call it quits, throw in the towel, and walk away when you have been bested by a man who's better than you. There's no shame in that, bud. But no. Not you, Chris. Not you. No, instead, you've decided to turn All Elite Wrestling into your own perverted version of Looney Tunes. You've attacked me and my friends in our locker room. You've doused us in bubbly. You have absolutely ruined my limousine. You have now decided to attack me during interviews? Interviews, Chris. Really, this is... You want to know why I'm laughing, Chris Jericho? I'm laughing because you think I'm the butt end of the joke, when in reality, Chris, you're the joke.
Welcome back to Talk AEW, and Aaron joining us. Someone surprised us. Someone is here. Mariko McDonald.
Good morning.
Mariko, we did not know if you were going to show up today. We heard you were busy.
I know, I'm sorry. But I made it.
It's been a dark, depressing week here in Montreal. It hasn't stopped raining, and our beloved Montreal Canadiens have lost the last 3 games. But it's okay, because they're in the finals, which is more than many teams can say.
And we beat Toronto.
We'll always have that.
Yeah, we'll always have that.
Back to wrestling. All right, so we're going to talk about the future of AEW and how leaving Jacksonville and going back on the road might change things, and also reflecting back on the past year or past year and a half of watching AEW film every single one of their shows from Florida. I mean, we had a really emotional send-off at the end of Dynamite. I don't think I was ready for the video package. I feel like I felt so emotional watching it because I remember, okay, rewind to 2020 in March, April, pandemic hits. I was writing about AEW I was writing weekly reviews, and I remember that first and second episode, and I wrote the reviews, and I was like, this is the first time I've smiled and had fun watching wrestling, right? In like weeks, because this is like when the pandemic started and people didn't know how bad it would be. And I mean, it was kind of really bad at the time. Like New York City was just like a complete nightmare. And you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I was stuck in Florida when it all went down.
So, and I remember like, so I was writing the reviews and I was just like, wow, this is the first time I've had a smile. And that's when I decided to launch this very podcast. Right. And, you know, you see this beautiful video montage, by the way. Whoever the editor or editors are, like, let's give them a raise. They did a fantastic job. And it just made me reflect back on the past year and a half and all of these amazing moments, and especially seeing a lot of the like, John Huber, Brody Lee, you know, images of him in AEW, and just realizing that this man never actually wrestled in front of a crowd.
Yeah, I know.
Wow, that's such a shame.
Yeah, I think that was like one of the most, like, you know, seeing John Huber's face, just like it was one of those. It was a really touching moment. Plus, like it just made you realize like how much AEW has been through in that past year. You know, you don't realize how much just happened in a year until you see that video montage.
And it also made me think about how everything can change in the future, because like in that video montage, you see wrestlers who are not yet signed to AEW and they haven't been signed, and they're going back on the road, and you know, they relied on some of these people like Fuego del Sol, for example, to just sort of like fill in, and Tony Khan was being generous and nice enough to give them a job during a pandemic. But a lot of these wrestlers are not signed, and you have wrestlers like you know, Miro and Dr. Britt Baker, who are champions right now, and they're supposed to be the villains, the heels, but I don't know if that's going to work in front of a crowd because they're too over. And so I'm kind of wondering, like, I guess we're going to start with Mariko here. Like, first of all, reflecting back on a year and a half of Jacksonville, thoughts, and also, if you had to choose one wrestler that you think is going to completely, I mean, not that their personality is going to change, but like the crowd might just completely alter the plans that AEW had for so-and-so wrestler moving forward, who would you choose first?
Okay. Well, I mean, the thing about, the Jacksonville era, it honestly was like a really wonderful, comforting thing during the whole pandemic to be able to like turn the TV on a Wednesday at 8:00 and like everything else is crazy and like, but there's the wrestling, and maybe it's a little bit different than we were used to, but there was still something really fun about it and really comforting about it. And the fact that they were using this time and this experience to try different things, to feature, you know, different developmental talent and that sort of thing. I think it's pretty special, and I think that it's something that people are gonna, you know, reflect back on in the history of wrestling, of like, you know, this strange time, and you know, the people who are sort of able to rise above. And I think that, you know, obviously bias, I'm on an AEW podcast, but I feel like AEW did it better than any of the other wrestling companies, especially to start with.
You say bias, but I think it's actually factual. Like, I think it's actually correct. Like, what you're saying is true. Just to make this even more depressing, there are wrestlers we might not ever see again, who we saw during the pandemic on shows like Dark and Elevation.
Yeah, I mean, I find that hard to believe. Like, somehow you know, they'll make it back. I mean, maybe not for a couple of years. I don't know if you guys saw in the Sammy vlog, but yeah, like you were talking about these people who they won't be able to bring on the road with them. Like Cody did a very heartfelt like plea to other indie wrestling companies, being like, please sign these guys or like give them work. Like they're so awesome. So that was really, really touching. As far as who I think the crowds are going to change things more the most, I mean, I guess I'm gonna go with the obvious one, which is Jungle Boy, who's been getting like this huge push recently. And personally, I think he's got a couple more years before he's really in the those title championship spots. But on the other hand, the crowd wants it, and I think we're gonna see something really big happen with him within the next year.
Yeah.
Or 6 months, honestly.
Yeah, I'm glad you chose Jungle Boy. I think it's the perfect launching point for this very discussion.
Also, do you know who he's dating?
I know, I'm surprised.
What?
They're gonna make such beautiful babies if they get that far.
Wait a minute. Okay, hold on. I don't know if I can take this. Who?
99.
What?
Oh yeah.
Since when?
So much good hair.
Wow.
There was a picture on Twitter.
Yeah, they posted on Twitter and Instagram. It's like their official coming out as a couple.
This is new.
Breaking here.
Okay, so I agree. I think if we go back and we look at the match between Kenny Omega and Jungle Boy last week on Dynamite, by the way, Saturday night, never do that again, Tony Khan. But anyways, look, I could not help but think that it was also done at the wrong time on the wrong stage, because I know everybody wants Jungle Boy, including myself, to get a title shot. And I know I've been bitching and complaining about it, like many people, for like a year now. But to me, that was like a pay-per-view event. Like, you have his family ringside. You have close-ups of his family.
You do it on the pay-per-view when he wins.
Yeah.
Well, no, I know. But I'm just saying it was good enough to be on a pay-per-view. Like, it was such a good match. The storyline going in.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, but then you watch the match, and I agree. Like, I don't think he's ready yet. And I think he's extremely talented.
Yeah,
but
I just add one or two moves to his repertoire. Like adding the submission finisher was, I think, a brilliant idea. But I think he needs one or two more things, something to kind of give him the impression of power. Like strength or brute power. Maybe it is just he needs to gain another 20, 40 pounds. I don't know.
That's what I think. He just needs to bulk up. Oh, like I think the commentators were mentioning that he's like he's
he has been working on it, and he has definitely bulked up since he started. But I think to be a little bit more, I guess, plausible, or I don't know. Yeah,
because like for me, like it's just he's got such a baby faced face, like I don't know how to put it. Like
no, he definitely has like a baby face,
boyish baby face.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the whole term baby face came because back in the days, whoever the true like faces were, they had the boyish baby face. They weren't like grizzly, hairy, bearded, big, bulky dudes. Those were reserved for the villains, right? I mean. But look, Aaron, before you cut in again, I agree with you. He needs to bulk up a bit. And I agree with Mariko. He needs to add one or two moves to his usual whatever cycle of, things he does in the ring. But he needs to work on the microphone big time.
Yeah.
I'm kind of two minds about it, because when he started, he was like the silent boy who didn't have language because he grew up in the jungle, and like that was kind of cool. And okay, so Christian's his daddy now, so Christian can talk for him. Okay, not a big deal. But I don't know.
But that's why he has the gimmick Jungle Boy, because he's supposed to be like the Jungle Boy in the movie, right? But like, look, you can't be a world title holder and not be able to talk on the microphone at least once. Like, I love you, Jungle Boy, but
Get Anna Jay to give you some lessons. She's been a quick study.
We just watched Dark Order deliver an after-school special this past weekend, which was like the corniest thing ever, but it kind of worked because it's the Dark Order.
Yes.
Aaron.
Well, I have nothing else to add in terms of like, you know, the Jungle Boy and everything, but like in terms of like the future, what the crowd can bring,
or anything that might change. Like okay, I'll go next. Okay.
Yeah.
So like, look, Britt Baker, she's not going to be able to stay a heel. And I mean, first of all, I've already mentioned how god awful the match was.
She's so good at it.
She's so good at it.
So good at it, but she's being pitted against like Nyla Rose.
It doesn't matter if it's Nyla Rose or Thunder Rosa. People love her too much. I think the thing is, she can still be a prick. She could be like, look, Shawn Michaels was a face and a heel, and he was always a prick no matter what. He was like, Shawn Michaels is like one of the greatest, if not the greatest wrestlers ever. And he always worked as a heel and the face because he never really shifted too far to the extreme in one direction. I think so long as Britt Baker doesn't actually cheat, she could still be a bitch. She could still be a prick. She can still, you know, be arrogant and make fun of people. I think people like that. I don't think that necessarily makes her. Yeah, I don't think that makes her a heel. So I think she's safe, but I think she's going to shift. I think they're going to make her a heel. They're going to have no choice.
Who, Rebel or Britt?
Britt Baker. I think she's going to go straight on full babyface, and like it or not, they're going to have no choice.
I agree. I mean, I think AEW is already shifting to like Britt Baker being a babyface because like you had Nyla attacking Britt Baker after that tag team match on Wednesday, so she's clearly coming out as Nyla is clearly coming out as the heel in this situation.
Listen, Aaron, when you have Nyla Rose throw 2,000 hamburgers in your face, you're no longer a heel.
How are you no longer a heel for throwing 2,000 hamburgers? I would call that person a heel.
On that note,
yeah, the heel was the person that threw the hamburgers, which was Nyla Rose.
But okay, so we turn Britt Baker face, and then we turn Sheeta heel.
I thought about it, but I think it would make more sense to make Thunder Rosa the heel.
I can't see Thunder Rosa as the heel, man, because
Okay, by the way, in terms of like future for wrestlers, Thunder Rosa is still not signed with AEW.
No, she's not.
So we're not even entirely sure where she fits in the picture in the near future in the long run. But like to me, the storyline that I want to see, and I think this is why, honest to God, I think that this is why they had the match with Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker, that bloody brawl. Yeah. Because they knew that because everything was going back to normal, quote unquote, and they were going back on the road, they wouldn't necessarily have Thunder Rosa on a weekly basis. We don't know when we're going to see her again in AEW, so they needed someone to go up against, like, have a feud with Britt Baker, and so they just chose Nyla Rose. It's not exactly the best choice.
Well, no, it's the tradition of Nyla Rose. She was
she's the first.
Yeah, she just goes after everybody with the belt. That's her. That's her shtick. It's been going on since the company started.
Right, but I do think that because they're going on the road, just to tie into this whole conversation, they chose Nyla Rose as the next big feud because they weren't sure about the future of Thunder Rosa, and they just had the Hoshida Britt Baker feud.
Yeah, I also feel like Thunder Rosa was so like it was relatively recent. So, and I mean, and it's not like Nyla Rose has had any other big storylines going on, so it makes sense for her and Britt. It's going on the road, regardless of what else is happening with other wrestlers.
Aaron, anyone else you want to add to the list of wrestlers who are just going to have their whole entire like future just turned upside down and like soon?
Not really. I mean, I think we mentioned everyone that.
Not really. Are you forgetting something big that happened this week on Dynamite? Mariko, you once told us on this podcast that the best storyline for any wrestler in AEW was the storyline that revolved around Hangman Adam Page that has been lasting for about 2.5 years now. And I just remember. We've talked about this plenty of times on the podcast.
Yes.
He hasn't had a shot at the title despite being ranked number 1. And we finally got our answer as to why that is on this week's episode of Dynamite. You don't think that they've been waiting this entire time for a crowd to put that man on the biggest stage of AEW and actually finally win the championship, which would shift the entire dynamic of the Elite? It would change everything for Kenny Omega. It would change everything for the Dark Order. It would change AEW.
No, I completely agree, and I can't believe it completely slipped my mind with the whole like Hangman Adam Page story.
What happens to Kenny Omega when he loses to He will lose, by the way.
Oh,
When he loses Page. What happens
Yeah.
to him and the belt collector? What happens to the belt collector? He's no longer the belt collector.
Well, depending when this match will happen. I mean, I'm assuming maybe All Out, but assume like he might still have the Impact Championship and all that during that time. So for Kenny Omega to lose to Hangman Adam Page would be a very fitting thing to happen because like Hangman Adam Page was with the Elite. They all came together into AEW. All former members of Bullet Club. I mean, to me, the storyline kind of reminds me a bit of like the Kota Ibushi like relationship that he had, where like it took like his best friend to take him down. So I'm kind of getting like vibes of that with this whole like Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page thing happening.
Mariko, can you refresh the listeners as to why Hangman Adam Page has had the best storyline, which has continued since the very start of Dynamite for anyone who didn't listen to that episode, which we recorded like a long time ago?
Well, it's about believing in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the most relatable wrestling storyline that's ever been created. It's about feeling alienated by your friends. It's about doubting your own potential. It's about finding the right people to support you and grow your dreams. It's so relatable and it's so wholesome at its heart.
Mm-hmm.
Of course everybody's obsessed with it.
I'm telling you, this is like kind of accidental, but yet genius on the part of whoever thought about this, the quote unquote writers or non-writers in AEW, because it's all coming full circle. It's coming at a very emotional and historic moment for not just wrestling, but like the world. Like we're coming off of this, hopefully this pandemic, how everything's changing, how life is sort of going back to quote unquote normal. But then it changes so much for the company. The Dark Order, for example. So now you have Hangman Adam Page, who's sort of like he's the leader, even if he's not officially the leader or doesn't see himself as the leader of this band of misfits.
Yeah.
But he sort of took over John Huber's spot as the leader. I mean, can you imagine how emotional it would be if -1 had a sit-down talk, an intervention with Hangman Adam Page and convinced him to
that would be
wrestle
awesome.
for the belt?
Yeah. That would be awesome.
I think it's going to help put the Dark Order in the spotlight again. I can see, Stu Grayson and Evil Uno actually wrestling for the tag team championship soon.
Mm-hmm.
I know that sounds crazy, but I can see it happening. I can see John Silver finally getting a shot again at the TNT championship, but actually winning it because something happens to Miro. Like, I don't know what's going to happen to that guy. But like, I just see so many things changing because of not only the fact that they're going back on the road, but because if Page wins the belt,
dude,
and also, does he stay with the Dark Order?
I would imagine so. I mean, I can't.
Yeah, because he's not like a member; they're just all friends.
Yeah, they're just friends. Unless like somehow, some way, Hangman Adam Page makes amends with Kenny Omega. I mean, I don't know.
If Kenny has to leave or does leave for a while because he loses the championship, what happens to the Elite? What happens to the Blood Brothers? What happens to Dawn? What happens to the Young Bucks? By the way, speaking of how everything's going to change, it's not really going to change drastically for the Young Bucks, but we've seen them in front of a crowd with their new shtick being the heels and just being completely over the top and outrageous. But man, when we continuously see those guys walk out every single week with new costumes, just like it's so silly. It's gonna get better and like that. I'm telling you, that is like the best I've ever seen the Young Bucks. I think this whole shtick, this whole characters that they're playing, I think it's the best thing they've done. Like, I don't think I think they're kind of like, they're great wrestlers in the ring. Granted, they've had amazing matches, but I've always said that they're kind of boring on the microphone as good guys.
Mm-hmm.
As bad guys, I mean, this is it's like a parody of DX and NWO or the Wolfpack combined.
There's a parody of everything.
Yeah, it's a parody of every despicable faction in wrestling. Like, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And the comedy timing is so perfect. Like, Brandon with his freaking cold spray, and like he can't stop spraying, the other guy can't stop getting sprayed. Like, it's pure vaudeville, but it's done so well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, like, just Brandon Cutler being like the spray guy. I mean, it's just I never thought I needed this, but it just works. I don't know.
So Britt Baker becomes a babyface. Kenny Omega loses the championship, takes some time off. Hangman finally becomes a champion. The Dark Order is back in the spotlight. Everyone's happy. A few more changes. Ricky Starks versus Brian Cage. Now, in the pandemic era, when you're not in front of the crowd, it makes sense to make Brian Cage the good guy and Ricky Starks the heel. In front of a crowd, how is the crowd going to react? Are they actually going to boo Ricky Starks in that match? Or are they going to side with Ricky Starks because he's the fan favorite when it comes to those two guys? Like, that can change. We might think Brian Cage will be the guy that's going to leave Team Taz, but maybe he's going to hold on to his championship, and maybe Ricky Starks is going to lose the match.
Interesting. There is one other thing that we haven't discussed in this that could also change a lot of things. Andrade is facing Kenny Omega for the AAA Mega Champion on August 14th.
Yep.
So he already has an opportunity to lose one of his collection to someone else in the company.
That would be... I have a feeling Andrade's going to win that one, but anyway.
Yeah, I think he kind of has to, honestly.
Yeah, it has to at this point. But it would make for an interesting dynamic to see Andrade like feuding with Kenny Omega in AEW.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how they do it, how they split up the elite in order to make it happen, but I think that's something that kind of needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think that makes a lot of sense to keep Kenny busy. Because if not, what are you going to do? You're going to have Kenny have a rematch with Hangman and prolong that. Because the thing about the beauty about the Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega match is there's not a feud, right? It's not like there's a history, there's a relationship, but it's not a feud. So if he loses to Page, he might just straight up lose to Page, and that's it. It's over. I'm going to go do my own thing.
And storyline wise too, because like Hangman is in no rush to face Kenny Omega.
Yeah, no. So they're going to be able to stretch this out before they actually get into a ring together too. Like, beyond whatever pay-per-views, like they could do it like for as long as they wanted, really, to build things up. And I think I mean, they've dragged it out this long and we're still invested. So,
yeah, exactly.
It's another couple months.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Like this is like really like one of the few storylines where it's like it could just slow simmer and we're still invested in it, you know?
Yeah, long-term storytelling. I mean, I don't know if anyone else in wrestling is doing it like this right now, but yeah.
The one thing I can't figure out, like, not to say I can figure everything out. I know exactly what AEW is going to do all the time, but we always have sort of like clues, or we can kind of guess, and we're always kind of close. Not always, but you know what I'm saying. But I can't figure out what's going to happen with Miro, because right now Miro is my hero. Miro is amazing. He's not just great on the microphone. He's not just great doing his video packages. He's unbelievable in the ring. He's a monster. He's unstoppable. He's undefeated. But that's the thing, right? That's the shtick, the gimmick. That's what he's playing, the guy who you can't beat.
You know who might know? God.
Right. He's got God on his side. He's
God knows.
God's champion.
What's that?
Wife.
What's that? What's that Drake song? God knows.
Yeah, God knows. But listen,
Oh my God, he should come in with that song.
Oh,
they they're calling him the Redeemer. But here's the thing, like, in all honesty, I mean, this guy is the guy that destroyed Lance Archer, the biggest dude in the company.
Yeah.
He's going to beat Miro. So I'm wondering, do they have someone that they know is coming to AEW, but they haven't announced it yet? And that's the guy that's going to beat Miro? Because who the hell is going to beat Miro?
Okay, well,
lose the belt.
Of the free agents that are floating around waiting to get signed, there is a extremely large man who is good friends with another extremely large man who just got hired at AEW to help with recruiting.
Are we talking about Braun Strowman?
We could be. I mean, he's not my first choice for who to pick up of the current free agents, obviously. But the fact that Mark Henry is in AEW, I think does help their chances of signing him.
Mm-hmm.
As for what they choose to do with him, I'm curious.
I'd be curious too. I mean, he's heck of a specimen, man.
He's also very funny. He can be very charming.
Yeah,
so I wonder if they can work on that a bit more with him.
Going back to what this whole segment is about and how things might change, like, he's the heel right now, and I think now in front of a crowd, as we've seen in the past few weeks, people cheer for Miro. And if his wife ends up coming to AEW, I don't know if they would pair her up with him, but man, like, he's going to become even more the favorite and more the babyface. And he's got God on his side. Like, I mean, we're joking around about it, but there's a lot of religious people out there, especially in the United States of America. Like, you have a wrestler who has God on his side, who's very religious and very open about how spiritual and faithful he is. I could see a lot of people buying into this guy as a hero. Like, I mean, there is a kid holding a sign saying, "Miro is my hero." The kid was 8 years old. This just happened on Dynamite. I don't see this guy being a villain at all.
Well, until Kip Sabian comes back, I don't know. Because they have to address that.
They need to do something to put a bow on that whole situation.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe Kip comes back with a friend.
Oh, yeah.
A very large friend. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm just I mean, we're just
shooting
now, having fun.
Yeah, we're just shooting.
I was there WrestleMania. What was it? WrestleMania 16. I can't remember. Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
The Rock versus Hogan. I've never ever witnessed a crowd so electric before in my life. I've been to a lot of events and a lot of shows.
The boiling point of that match, man. I mean, you had The Rock and you had Hulk Hogan, two of the biggest stars in wrestling.
Aaron, I say we because I was part of that crowd. We changed the outcome of that match. We changed the near future of Hogan and The Rock in WWE. Now, it's very rare that a crowd will actually change, the storyline. And I mean, that was special. That was Hulk Hogan. That was The Rock, two of the biggest wrestlers ever.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just saying, I can see after week after week after week, watching Miro come out and everyone's cheering this guy, I can see him quickly becoming the face, becoming the hero. So I think that's going to change.
I don't know. I think he's having too much fun as a bad guy right now, but I agree. Before the end of the year, he'll be basically a face.
Mm-hmm.
I still have no idea who's going to beat this guy because AEW does not have many big men, and like I said, he's already taken out Lance Archer like it was nobody's business. So
yeah, either it's something funky with Kit coming back, but I don't really like that. I think it makes more sense to have someone else come in. Maybe Andrade. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Andrade
he's big and mean and intense.
Mm-hmm. I could see that happening.
Yeah, of the current roster, I think he's got the best shot. Frankly, at this point.
Yeah, and going back to Ricky Starks and Brian Cage really quick. So I think this will be the very first time that we actually see someone wrestle for the FTW championship in AEW. I could be mistaken.
Yeah, they're actually defending that title?
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
The title no one cares about, but
it's not a real title. Well, it's also that it's never been defended before, so like how are we supposed to believe it's a real title?
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm just trying to figure out. I'm wondering if they're trying to make this like a new title because they have too many wrestlers in all these shows and they need someone to hold the belt. Like I don't know.
I don't know because the stakes are not there for that title. Like that's my only problem.
Like, those stakes only matter to Team Taz.
Exactly.
So if you're gonna make it like a company title, like you're gonna have to. It needs a bit more work before we get there.
What does this mean? Like, okay, when they're on the road, they're still going to do dark matches. Is dark just going to go back to being what dark used to be, where it's going to be like 2 or 3 matches that are on the road? And who's going to be wrestling in those matches? Like, who's going to be participating? That's going to get squashed, for example.
Local talent.
Right. So that's kind of a good thing, right? For those dudes. Like, it's going to, like, yes, we might not see a guy like Fuego every week on dark, but we could discover someone new who we've never seen before because they will be on the road. So it helps more wrestlers get a moment. All right, we're going to wrap up the show. I know I did promise 3 segments, but I think we kind of covered everything in 2 segments. But before we go, Mariko, since you weren't here for the opening segment, I just need a quick 2-minute recap, your thoughts, your views on the MJF Sammy match that happened this week on Dynamite.
I thought it was good, but I completely agree with you that it really felt rehearsed through a lot of it, and that was very disappointing. I don't know if it was nerves for the two of them, main eventing live in front of a crowd or something. I mean, they're both relative veterans considering how young they actually are. So that it was surprising to me. I mean, I think it was a good showcase for giving you an idea of what it could look like in the future, but I'll be honest, I think I was a little bit disappointed just because of how kind of rehearsed a lot of it felt. It wasn't as smooth and hard hitting as I really wanted. It actually wasn't really hard hitting at all, which was a little bit disappointing. You could hear on commentary Jericho was kind of disappointed by that aspect of things.
Yeah, just to recap really quick, I totally agree with you, Mariko. My disappointment came with the fact that it felt really rehearsed. I didn't like the fact that they did a pile driver from the top rope and it wasn't a finisher, and I hated the interference at the end of the match. So that's why I don't call it a great match. I think that there are great things that happen in the match, but as a whole, I think it was kind of disappointing. And but it showed a lot of potential of the insanely great matches we can possibly get between these two in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really surprised at how sort of mechanical a lot of it was.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with I had the same sentiment with Mariko. So, I mean, the beginning was super rehearsed. It's it kind of took you out of the match for a second.
Yeah, I mean, especially knowing both the wrestlers' work and what they're capable of, it was just kind of surprising. What happened? Are you guys just nervous or what?
It's possible.
Yeah. Or did somebody change up the match at the last minute and you had to learn I don't. It was weird.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the good news is Dynamite is back on Wednesdays. Thank God. Because, man.
Going to Miami.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Aaron. Thank you, Mariko. Mariko, I hope to God you're going to lead the show next week. I hate leading the show. If our listeners want to find us, they can find us over at goombastomp.com. Just check the wrestling section and or the podcast section. You can find us on Twitter. It is Talk AEW Podcast. And I guess that's about it. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week recording on our usual time on Thursdays. So the podcast should be up pretty quick afterwards. Once again, thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon.
Goodbye.